Housing Europe is the European Federation of Public, Cooperative, and Social Housing. The network consists of affordable and social housing providers from different sectors, ranging from public companies to cooperatives and associations, as well as not-for-profit organizations, charities, and foundations. Established in 1988, Housing Europe is today a network of 45 national and regional federations representing 43,000 housing providers in 24 countries. Together, they manage over 26 million homes, about 11% of existing dwellings in Europe. In recent years, our sector has faced numerous challenges. We will focus on 5 of them here. First, budgetary issues. Cities do not have the budget capacity to house and assist low to no income groups due to cuts and recruitment freeze. This implies a lack of upfront funding to local service providers, which can hamper both reception and integration services for marginalized people. Second, political issues. Threat of losing votes to nationalist parties change the political narrative, which can contribute to the uncertainty for long-term investments such as social and public housing. Third, lack of administrative capacity to allocate housing. Local administrations are faced with increasing migration and ever-growing demand for more livable and inclusive cities, including a growing and unmet need for affordable accommodation. Fourth, lack of temporary and permanent housing in appealing areas. According to the State of Housing report, there are not enough affordable homes available in most European countries to meet the increasing demand. As the level of housing construction is still low, major cities in particular face a structural housing shortage reinforced by recent waves of migration. Finally, empty houses in unattractive areas. Where there are homes, they are often in areas of the city with few or no jobs. This means that finding adequate and affordable housing in places where jobs opportunities exist becomes increasingly difficult. At the same time, one of the most compelling challenges emerging concerns the housing provision and acceptance of newcomers, refugees, and displaced persons in cities. In recent years, large numbers of forced migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees have arrived in Europe. For many reasons, cities are the main targets of this inflow. Our societies are in continuous mutations. Hence, the challenge of living together and sharing the same space is ever more important and required to keep social peace. A number of EU countries are faced with the need to accommodate people fleeing their countries. Migration flows are contributing to widening the housing supply in already tight housing market areas. The extraordinary influx of migrants in 2015, commonly referred to as the refugee crisis, marked a peak in the need of housing in destination countries, both in terms of emergency accommodations and mid-term solutions. Nevertheless, a more complex challenge is to mobilize resources towards comprehensive social inclusion of newcomers. This requires a holistic approach in partnership with local stakeholders, local authorities, service providers, associations, and residents. Through the European Union, cities, local government, and relevant stakeholders like providers of affordable housing represented by Housing Europe are already implementing solutions toward the inclusion of refugees. Overall, no matter which type of organization takes the lead on a specific project addressing the need of migrants and marginalized communities, its success will depend on the capacity to effectively mobilize a range of different actors working together. What emerged from our experience on the ground is that beyond the essential provision of housing, there are at least 3 aspects which are key to the success of projects in this area. First, it is important to raise awareness and encourage exchange to help build trust and mutual understanding between newcomers and the existing local community, to break down the barrier of fear so that people choose to talk to each other and not about each other. Second, Creating a social mix in the housing estates and local neighborhood is a key to avoid socio-spatial segregation, and residents, including migrants and vulnerable people, should be able to shape the kind of community they want to live in by participating in the design and implementation of new initiatives. Third, inclusion is a multidimensional concept, one in which housing has a key role to play as it represents the fulfillment of a basic need on which to build or rebuild someone's life. But housing alone will not solve all problems. What is needed is a coordinated response to help people in accessing employment, training, language classes, healthcare, education, as well as personalized advice and support when needed. These three aspects reflect which new competencies and skills are required of architectural and urban design professionals who are working with housing issues for successfully engage vulnerable and marginalized communities. We have identified 5 of these skills and competencies. Developing networking and collaborative skills. Working together with neighborhood partners and local welfare and civil society organizations is key. Cooperation between different actors on the ground has proven to be most efficient in working towards social inclusion. Engaging vulnerable communities in projects and processes. Ideally, housing projects should be designed together with users, both migrants and the host communities. It is also important to include recipients in the planning and implementation process where possible. Increasing multicultural competences. For instance, in terms of communication and language skills, in some cases, organizations which typically saw themselves as only in charge of providing and managing the housing stock had to integrate into their structure new positions such as social cultural mediators, advisors who can inform new residents on their duties and rights. Envisioning new transformative scenarios, for instance, helping local authority to think creatively about the existing resource and how they can be mobilized for activating the change. Being more creative in finding innovative solutions, for instance, questioning traditional concept and design approaches in the housing sector. In conclusion, we can see that the housing sector is increasingly being required to go beyond the basic provision of bricks and mortar, and is being urged to develop additional facilities, services, and activities to respond to the need of residents, including those with refugee status and/or migrant background. These present us with an exciting opportunity to design new and innovative approaches, to experiment with cutting-edge tools and processes, and to build integrated and inclusive communities together.